Up there you think you have a chance, but hermano, down here, you hit the ground.
Let's get one thing straight about the man. When you look at Vaas Montenegro, you aren't just looking at a pirate or villain. You're staring into a fractured mirror. The definition of insanity speech is memorable, but in this video, I'm focused on the why behind the what. Vaas isn't merely unhinged, he was methodically dismantled and reassembled incorrectly, and that process started with the very face he shows the world. Before we dive into his history, look at the canvas of his face. It's a map of distress and chronic instability, starting with that asymmetrical gaze. Notice his eyes. They are rarely fixed in a calm, bilateral focus. Instead, one eye often seems to be tracking a phantom threat while the other is looking straight through you. This isn't a stylistic choice. It's the hallmark of hypervigilance common in individuals with severe PTSD. In a clinical setting, we would call this scanning behavior, a permanent state of fight or flight in which the sympathetic nervous system is locked in the on position. Vaas's hypervigilance isn't just a symptom, it's a survival strategy rooted in deep trauma. His need to constantly assess threats is a learned behavior from a world where danger was often unpredictable and close. The physical scarring across his brow and the fresh blood on his face is a testament to a life of violence. But the tatau, the rakyat tattoos, are more telling. They represent an identity he both clings to and despises. These aren't just decorations. They are the externalized skin of a warrior culture that demanded he sacrifice his humanity for the tribe. The tattoos are both armor and a reminder of the cost of belonging. Every mark an attempt to earn acceptance, yet each one pushes him further from his own sense of self. You might be thinking, there are no tattoos on Vaas? And you'd be right, but if we look back on an earlier trailer called The Savages, featuring Vaas and Buck, we clearly see Vaas with what appears to be a rakyat warrior tattoo on his arm. And I think it makes sense for Vaas to have had these tatau. After all, he used to be a rakyat warrior before he started working for Hoyt. So, for the sake of the lore, let's assume the real Vaas has rakyat tatau. Watch his micro-expressions during his peaks of aggression. He fluctuates between manic euphoria and cold, predatory stillness in milliseconds. This isn't just being crazy, it's a clinical symptom of emotional dysregulation. Vaas has lost the buffer between an impulse and an action. In a healthy psyche, there is a space between the spark and the flame where logic can intervene. That voice in the back of your head that asks, "Should I really do this?" In Vaas, that space has been cauterized. His emotional outbursts are not random. They're the inevitable result of a mind that's been punished for vulnerability and forced to use rage as a shield. Every perceived slight or memory floods his system with cortisol, leaving him no room for reflection, only reaction. He doesn't just feel anger, he becomes anger, because his sense of self is so thin that only intense emotion convinces him he's real. This emotional volatility is a desperate attempt to feel something, anything that cuts through the numbness of trauma. To see how he became this raw, examine the forces that crushed his psyche. Start with the Citra wound. Vaas wasn't born a pirate. He was a rakyat warrior, steeped in the island's spiritual sanctity. His sister Citra didn't just love him, she groomed him. In his mind, she forged his insanity, pushing him to brutal extremes, demanding devotion she'd never return. This is attachment disorder, pure and simple. When the one meant to protect is the one who hurts, the brain fractures. Vaas's desperate need for connection is constantly at war with his fear of betrayal. He craves approval from Citra and the tribe, but every time he reaches out, he is punished or manipulated. This cycle leaves him unable to form healthy attachments with anyone. His loyalty is toxic, and his love is laced with suspicion. He was betrayed by the one person he was supposed to trust most, and when he realized he was just a tool for Citra's goddess complex, his identity shattered. This is a classic case of betrayal trauma. This kind of trauma destroys a person's sense of self-worth and leaves them searching for stability in all the wrong places. Vaas didn't flee to Hoyt Volker because he liked the man. He fled because he needed the resources to burn down the world Citra built. In Hoyt, Vaas found a painful kind of certainty. At least with a mercenary boss, the rules were clear. He chose the devil he could see over the sister who claimed to love him while sharpening the knife she intended to put in his back. The need for control, even in a brutal environment, became a substitute for the chaos of betrayal and emotional confusion. If Citra was the mother's sister who broke his spirit, Hoyt Volker was the father who destroyed the pieces. Hoyt exploited this trauma through drugs, likely dissociatives and stimulants, to keep Vaas pliable. This created a toxic dependency-hostility dynamic, often seen in abusive relationships where victims hate the provider but feel unable to leave. The drugs aren't just for control, they're the only way Vaas can silence the relentless pain of his past. He hates Hoyt's control, but the numbness is the only relief he knows. Without Hoyt's power and chemical escape, Vaas fears he would be left alone with memories and guilt too heavy to bear. His hostility is a mask for dependence, and his dependence is a prison he doesn't know how to escape. This leads us to the definition of insanity.
Did I ever tell you what the definition of insanity is? Insanity is doing the exact same fucking thing over and over again, expecting shit to change. That is crazy. The first time somebody told me that, I don't know, I thought they were bullshitting me, so boom, I shot him. The thing is, okay, he was right.
When Vaas gives this speech to Jason, he isn't actually talking to the protagonist, but to himself, trapped in a loop of compulsive repetition.
Over and over and over and over and over again.
A phenomenon where a person unconsciously repeats a traumatic event in hopes of finally getting it right.
This time is going to be different. I'm sorry.
He tries and fails to kill Jason, his mirror, again and again, as he also tries and fails to escape his sister's shadow. Vaas's every violent act is an attempt to break the cycle of pain that defines his life. He burns, kills, and destroys, hoping for catharsis, for a moment where the past loses its grip.
All right. The thing is, I killed you once already. And it's not like I am fucking crazy. It's okay. It's like water under the bridge. Did I ever tell you the definition of insanity?
The rage we see comes from realizing the click he's waiting for will never come.
Oh, Jesus. No.
Every repetition is driven by a desperate need for resolution, a way to rewrite his story, to finally win a battle he lost long ago. This is why Vaas is so obsessed with Jason. He doesn't actually want to kill the boy. He wants to save him by destroying him. In Vaas's eyes, Jason is the new Vaas, the young, naive outsider currently being groomed by Citra. Vaas sees his own past staring back at him. When he looks at Jason, he sees the version of himself that still had a soul, still had a tatau that meant something, and still believed in the rakyat. This is a process called projective identification. Vaas's obsession is not just projection, but self-punishment. By tormenting Jason, he is trying to destroy the innocence and hope he lost. If he can strip Jason of his soul, maybe he can make sense of his own suffering. Every taunt, every test is an attempt to force Jason to choose, become the monster, or die as the victim. In this way, Vaas's need for control, violence, and destruction is a twisted plea for understanding and perhaps redemption through someone else's transformation. By putting a gun to Jason's head and screaming about insanity, he's trying to wake up the version of himself that died years ago. He is testing the universe. If Jason survives, perhaps Vaas's survival wasn't a fluke. Maybe there's a way out. Each time he lets Jason escape, it's not a plot hole, but a subconscious hope that Jason will break the cycle that Vaas couldn't end. He roots for destruction because death is the only exit button left in his mind. Throughout the game, we learn that before Jason, Vaas was destined to become the ultimate warrior. He too did what Citra asked and killed people for her. In fact, he explains that the first time he ever killed, it was for his sister, that he would have done anything for her, but that it was never enough. When the time came to finally fulfill the role she had in mind for him, he understandably refused to participate in the quite extreme ritual and left. So is Vaas actually insane? No, he's hyper-aware. He's a high-functioning sociopath with secondary psychopathy whose traits were forged. He sees the world's cruelty as it is, transactional and brutal. He isn't lost in delusion, he's clear-eyed in hell. His madness is actually a defense mechanism. If he acts like a monster, the world can't hurt the broken boy Citra left behind. If he is the scariest thing on the island, he doesn't have to be afraid of his sister or Hoyt anymore. Vaas is a tragedy wrapped in a mohawk, the man who looked into the abyss, saw it looking back, and decided to start a fire just so he could see what the abyss was hiding. He didn't lose his mind. He threw it away because it was too heavy to carry. I'm Eurus, and I'm never taking a vacation to the Rook Islands.